to create certainty so you have clarity of purpose, you meet the right people, and you attract your soulmate clients? If so, we're going to show you why JP Morgan says millionaires don't have astrologers, billionaires do. I'm Kim Woods, and I have 25 years of C-suite experience, but I'm also a master astrologer. And I'm here with Mariah Kimball. We're back again, the hit duo for a repeat performance, and we're going to talk to you about Saturn, the planet of hard choices, entering Pisces, that dissolving, compassionate, good for all sign. And we're going to tell you why the next 3 years are so impactful, pivotal, in fact, for the rest of your life. How does it feel, Mariah, to be here again?
So good. Like, I can't believe it's been 2 months since we did the annual forecast, and we had a really great January and February. Most people did. And so I'm really excited. What's the deal with Saturn? Like, astrologers, like, it's a big deal. You guys all get like, ooh, when we talk about Saturn.
We totally do. I think our voices go down. I think we get all serious and lean in. Yeah. So before we dive into that, I would love to know who's seen your annual forecast and who hasn't. We'll just take it like a little poll, because we want to know how to give you peeks to it. It's not available to the public anymore. So that's just a thing we want to just find out from you. But Saturn, yes, my voice is going to go down. Saturn, big Saturn. Here's the deal. Saturn was the last planet that the naked eye could see. And so for thousands of years before the telescope was invented, Uranus wasn't discovered yet, which is the next planet. So that was like in late 1700s, I think. Okay, I'm a geek. It was 1781. And
he knows the exact thing.
It's a thing, right? It's a thing. So Saturn was the last one. Like, Saturn was known as the karmic annihilator. He still is known as that. He's known as the disciplinarian. He's known as that malevolent one. I mean, that's like little doomsday kind of thing, right?
Yeah, serious stuff.
Serious stuff. And I want to say that the last 6 years, he has been in his glory. He has, ever since December of 2017, he has been like, oh, I'm the king of the planets, right? Which he really isn't, but he's been taking center stage. And, we do know that, well, you may not know this. He was in Capricorn, his own sign, and he adores that because he's all about goals, and he's about priorities, and he's about doing the right thing. So think about 2020. He kissed Pluto. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes and why that's such a big deal. Why this 3 years is such a big deal. I mean, he changes his signs every 3 years, but yet we're making an even bigger deal about this one. It's because Pluto's involved. It's because it's a 20-year odyssey. This is a big deal. Look at your face.
I know. I just like all the things, right? Like, like Saturn nearly killed me, like the last, nearly did. So, yeah. But what about Pisces? So we know Saturn in Cap. What about Pisces? Because he's moving into Pisces, right? Yes. On the 7th.
On the 7th of March, so next week. And so here's the thing with Saturn. He drags the energy in. He's not like the lightning bolt that comes in and says, oh, today I'm like this, tomorrow I'm like that. He doesn't. He's like, think about yourself, like, honestly, think about yourself like tied to the end of the car and like your tin cans and like, that's what he's like. So think about Pisces. Pisces is a water sign. Look what the weather has been doing for the last few weeks. Even months. That's Saturn in Pisces. Even though he's not officially there, he's been dragging the energy in. And so Pisces, let's talk about Pisces. Pisces is kumbaya. Pisces is compassionate, sweet, romantic, tender, passionate. Pisces is art and music and romance and intuition and the mysteries, right? Does that sound super yummy?
Delicious. Like, that's right up my alley. So Saturn in Pisces, how does he act? Like, how does that disciplinarian do in the romantic?
Right? You'd think it'd be like writing love sonnets, which it could be, right? So let's kind of go into the good side and let's judge everybody up and let's have a feel-good moment, because yes, why not, right? Yeah. So Pisces and Saturn likes to build things. Saturn likes to construct. Saturn likes to make things real. So he's like the reality guy. Pisces is all about like, I want to dream, I want to imagine, I want to create, which is beautiful. Those two coming together could be luscious.
Yeah.
It could be delicious. They could be like beautiful music, musical scores, like another whole kind of genre for music. They could be like the art world could really, build itself into a place where it's for the masses, because that's Pisces is for everybody. Pisces is like the unity of all. It could be really neat things in media. Really, really wonderful things in TV and shows and movies. And so that feels luscious. It feels really creative. And Saturn can make that happen. Here's the thing, though. This is where it's like,
we're not there, are we?
We could be, we can be. So the good news is that industry that could be 100%. But then overall, like what's the big deal? Like the big deal is the fact that there is Pluto involved, and I'll get to that in a minute. But with Saturn and Pisces, it also could make you want to just laze away the next 3 years. The last 6 years have been tough, right? And I'm just going to take the lens of Saturn because that's what we're trying to do. Like astrology is all interwoven and we do lots of different cuts of it. But this, we want to put the microscope on, the lens on. We want to talk about the larger world first. Then we're going to go into personal, right? So we'll get there. But we need to talk about the vibe itself. And so you could say like, oh, I'm eating like the lotus flower and I'm going to be, like in like just dream world and I'm going to relax because the last 6 years have been so tough, right? And you can take those moments and those beautiful like vacations or those retreats, or definitely factor those things in, because Pisces has been in for 3 years, from 2017 through 2020, those 3 years. He was in Capricorn. It was goals, it was priorities, it was hard choices. We know what happened, right? Like through 2020, especially. And then he went into Aquarius, which was like that new opening. Remember when I said like, oh, look, we have hands. We don't even know what to do, right? That it was all new. It was uncertain. It was like, yes, all that stuff. And he was still really strong in that because he loves Aquarius too. And so he was like pushing for innovations and new ideas and to do new things. And so that's why things have sped up.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. If Pluto wasn't moving into Aquarius in 3 weeks, I would say kumbaya for everybody. I would be like, let's dance in the flowers and let's all like groove and jive. I can't. Because because Saturn paved the way for Pluto, and it's a 20-year odyssey for Pluto.
I personally love Pluto, and what can quickly, I know we're not talking about Pluto, but Pluto, wholeness, things that are hidden are revealed, like anything else we should know. So like, this is a big time of, I don't know, maybe personal discovery or truth, maybe.
Yeah, 100%. And so that's the thing, like they're both truth tellers. Saturn is a truth teller, making hard choices. You will have to give up something with Saturn. You have to. And when he changes, when any planet changes signs, that's where we have a shift. And because we have a shift, there's an explosion of the energy. And that's why, so you're like, Saturn is going to be in Pisces for 3 years. Like, can we expect the storms for 3 years? Yes. I'll get to that in a few minutes, right? Yes. Okay, fine. But it's those ignition points at the either edge of those signs. So like right now, it's because he's at the end of one sign going into the beginning of another sign. There's lots more energy involved, back like in 2026, when he's going to meet Neptune. Then this is the thing. This is why you don't want to have a dream state for three years. Yeah. Take pockets, plan it. Saturn's all about routines and like doing the right thing and like doing your homework before you play video games, right? And eating nutritious foods before you have fun foods. Like that's Saturn. So let's take advantage of that, because think about how creative we could be. Think about how innovative we could be. Think about how we can be on the leading edge of things, because that's what all these energies are asking of us. That's exciting.
That's exciting. That feels really good. Like that potential feels like, oh, okay, we can do this.
Right? Because I'll be honest with you, the other lens is, we just talked about storms just briefly, but the other lens is the fact that coming into this new way of leadership, Like we had Saturn and Pluto and Jupiter kissing at the beginning of 2020. We know what happened in 2020. Big effing timeout for everybody on the planet. We all needed it. Did we learn anything? Question mark. Hopefully, let's say yes. Let's say yes, right? At the end of 2020, we had the ignition point, that 800-year star of the next 20 years. So we're still in that 20-year envelope where, like we're shifting a little bit, like maybe it's a 1 year off, whatever, but we're still in that 20-year envelope. This was the new way of living and leading, where that feminine intuition side, Pisces, and that beautiful, strong masculine core, Saturn, come together. That's what this is all about. All of it, every single bit of it. And when you think about that and you think about, like, do you have to come out as a spiritual leader like I have? No. We're going to go through that story and like why, but not everybody does. We're going to go through people's charts and we're going to look to see what's specific for people. We've written a beautiful guide to tell you what it means for you. We've done a video for you to be able to look at, to know how to run your chart and be able to see things. So we're going to get to you. Again, we want to orient this and why this is the BFD, because it is.
Yeah. And Saturn's a really big deal for you too, right? You've got a pretty close relationship with him. I read you have a beautiful story about meeting Saturn essentially. So why does he hit so close to home, like for you personally?
Yeah. So my story with Saturn, I'm a Capricorn. So that means Saturn rules me, like basically rules me, because those two are like, bread and butter, if you will, right? Two sides of the same coin, that doing the right thing, focusing on the long-term strategy, right? Like being a leader. That's what Saturn is all about. But Saturn's also about integrity. He's about authenticity. He's about doing the right thing when no one's looking. We know that that's integrity, but he's about authenticity. It's like, what does it mean for you? Is it satisfying for you? Is it really fulfilling your soul destiny? That's his gig. So that's my whole life, because I'm a freaking Capricorn. So hello, all the Capricorns in the world, right? Like last 6 years, boom, boom, boom. Now your moon's in Capricorn, my friend. I'm outing you. So you've been semi-slapped too, right? And
yeah, I wouldn't say semi. I think I've been slapped. I think I just, yeah.
And your Saturn is in Capricorn. So another thing, right? That is like another lens, right? So it's no joke of why you found me and why we started working together, right? Like, oh no. It was destined. It was predestined, preordained, right?
Absolutely. Like I would not have survived if I didn't do all the things. Do you know what I mean? Like Saturn, he asks so much of you, so much.
He does. And he asks it of you, like, and it's an isolating thing.
Yeah.
So Saturn is isolating. This is why we do like it that he's in Pisces. I'll get to that in a minute. But for me, I mean, he's been like in my grill, right? And I'm coming up to my Saturn return. So I am going to do a peek of a chart. It's mine, but just because I'm going to show 3 or 4 charts today. So this is my natal Saturn and this is Saturn. Like, so for me, I'm on my Saturn return. I will not say that I'm almost 6 decades. Yes, that is a true story. Anybody who's 30, 60, 90, Saturn returns. Here we go, right? Yay, Saturn and Pisces. Woo, woo. Okay, so that it's coming up. So he's like in my face, super scary guy. Like he was like yelling at me like 3 years ago. Literally when he went into Capricorn, he was like, choose. And I was like, what am I choosing, right? Mm-hmm. I was doing business strategy, dancing with, maybe sort of peeking at, sure, I'll make a hobby of doing astrology. Not coming out of the woo closet at all. Slapped the bejesus out of me to say, you're going to come out. So I've been coming out, right? Literally had a video the next week, I think, like, and then off we go, off to the races we go, right? So Saturn is going to ask a lot of you. And it's going to depend on where he is in your chart. And he's going to be asking, are you walking in your authenticity? Are you making choices that are for your future? That's what he's been asking for the last 3 years. Shed those things that don't really matter. Really matter. And your mind might think that they're super important, but your heart and soul know that they're not.
Yeah, that's intense. Yeah.
I
had, it feels to me like I had my Saturn return just before 2020. So Saturn beat the snot out of me through the chaos. Like I can't believe I survived. Right. And so I feel like for me in this moment, it's not whole cloth. It's not like big, huge, massive ask. It's just like shifting the lens a little bit, looking maybe a little bit deeper or like from the side. I'm like, oh yeah, that's my choice, or that's who I am. It's almost like remembering versus that really intense choice. So is there we talked about the really good news. Is there anything we should know that we could look at from like when Saturn was in Pisces last time?
Yeah.
Anything that we could kind of look at and glean to kind of get us ready for what that might look like?
Yeah, that is perfect, because it's every 30 years, right? So that's the good news. We've had this energy in our lives, because I can't imagine anybody under the age of 30 is following me at all for a minute. Like, it's just not happening, right? So we know that, right? So yes, we all have our lane. That's my lane. So some of us can remember, like, it's from 1993 through 1996. That's the last period. The period before that was 1964 to 1967. So, and there's always other lenses, but we're going to just carve out that Saturn and Pisces lens for a moment. So that 1990s, it was so interesting because, I had to look it up, honestly, because, I've been alive for a long time, and like, you kind of forget, you kind of remember. So for me personally, there was a whole career shift, because again, that's where Saturn hits me, because it's my 10th house. That's the house of career. But from a global perspective, there were a lot of storms, and it was the storm of the century that literally dubbed like 2 months before. That's kind of where we are now. And then it was the blizzard of 1996, which I shouldn't have forgotten, because literally was the first day that started a brand new career for me in consulting. Like, of course, like Saturn is no joke. It's like no joke, right? So, but in between that, lots of ice storms, lots of tornadic activity, and then you can ask yourself, like, why? Well, Saturn is very cold, very icy, very isolating. Think about what those storms do. Stay home, be quiet. Here's your timeout. Right? And so that's the Saturn vibe. Pisces is water. This is why, and look at what's going on in California right now, like feet of snow. Like we can say, oh my goodness, there's been a drought for the last 30 years, and so here we are, we're getting all this water. Can we do anything with it? This is where Saturn could build, Saturn could construct, Saturn could create really wonderful containers, if you will. Yeah, that would be really great. In the meantime, it's like, okay, wonderful. We've had lots of storms. Like, unfortunately, there's been a lot of other reasons that we've been having a lot of storms, planetarily and, just, earthly, right? So looking at that, that's the lens of like, what's going to happen from a weather perspective. I've been talking about weather for the last 3 years. It just is.
Anything beyond that, the storms?
Yeah, so we'll need to go back to the 60s, mid 60s for that, because there is that same revolutionary energy in the world. It's for a different reason than Saturn in Pisces, but Saturn was just in Aquarius, getting ready for Pluto to go into Aquarius. So he's paving the way for that. Pluto has not been in Aquarius for 250 years. No one is alive on the planet that has experienced that energy. Yeah, look at your energetic reaction, right? So we're going to be talking about that. Like, one of the reasons why we're doing so much star activity this year. Like, I'm doing as much as I did in 2020, but it's because it's in that same vibe of like, there's so much going on. Yeah. We want to support. We're doing this live for the public, like gratis, like, yay. We've got guides out here. We're doing all these things, but we do have that beautiful star pass. Yeah. And remember, we birthed that in the fall because we were like, how are we going to help people get through this year? Well, we're going to be doing this every other month in a container that's wildly inexpensive, very approachable. It's only $77 for today only, by the way, because it's been like that for 3 months, but it's only going to go to $297 as of tomorrow, which is March 1st, if you're watching this on the replay. But even that, because we're doing star peaks. And what does that mean? I'm going to be going through 5 charts today to talk about what it means on somebody's chart, and that's called a star peak, and people go bananas for those, right? So really important, because when we look at that mid 60s energy, there was another reason. It was Uranus and Pluto kissing, for anybody who's in astrology, conjunct. we have that same energy because Pluto's going to be in Aquarius. So we really want to look at the mid 60s for the what else besides weather. We want to look for that. There were civil rights. Their EPA was starting to get birthed, didn't actually come into fruition until later. But we were looking at justice, like human, social, environmental, financial, like justice, right? That's the revolution that, think about Pisces. I'm going back to Saturn and Pisces. Kumbaya, for the good of all. Saturn could construct that. Saturn could be really helpful if we marry the Pluto and Aquarius and lean on that Saturn and Pisces, not to be la 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 la. I'm just gonna like relax for the next 3 years. You can, but then the top of 2026 is gonna suck for you if you do that. Because that's Aries. It's going to be like, come out, let's go. There is no turning back. Like it's massive energy. Let's get ready for it. Let's just get ready for it.
Okay. So if we use energy and essentially create that peaceful revolution, that peaceful change for justice, for all the change that we've been seeking, that is bubbling to the surface.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's here now. This is the thing. The stars, we always say use the stars strategically. What does that mean? Know what the hell's going on in the stars. We don't expect anybody to be an astrologer. I am here doing the story for you. Done. Yeah. I'm going to tell you the answers, right? And then use them. We give you information in that big global perspective, not to scare you, not to like be fear mongering to get, look, we get 3 likes. We're not doing this for that, right? Like we are doing this so that your mind can start wrapping itself around the information so you can accept it. So then you can navigate and make choice the way you want to make choice. Because I'm going to tell you, this could be a massively successful time.
Yeah.
Massively successful.
I love that.
Because Saturn is here for your success. That's his lens. Saturn is like, how can you be successful in your life? Whatever that means for you. So great. Let's start looking at people. You want to start looking at people to say like how it could be successful for you?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to do a little like, kind of like separation of like categories of people in our world, right? So like if you're in the public sphere and you're on YouTube, go and get the guide that is attached to this video. The link is right there. It is going to show you how to look up your chart. I literally did screenshots, and then it's going to tell you how to find Saturn, and it gives you the house number. Free for you. No worries, right? Beautiful. If you're in the Star Pass, you're getting a longer guide, you're getting a little bit more information, but you're going to get Pluto in 2 weeks because that's like the big information, right? If you're a one-on-one client, first of all, I already did all the interpretation for you. You have to do nothing, right? But if you are like, but I really want to know, because we do have a few clients, we gave you the journal, right? So this journal will go through and you literally have March and you have the big, the big information here. You have the page. I probably already wrote on it. I'm trying to look for it. Sorry, that was awkward. I should have gotten it out before. But you have the page where you can write all over what's going on in March for you. Okay. So you have all these different tools for you that you can use. If you are here and you're like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, don't worry. There's also a video that I know Tammy put the link in attached to this video that will show you, if you don't want to read the guide, will show you how to get your chart. Because here's the deal. Saturn and Pisces, great. I have that information. So what? Right? What does it mean for me? Like, what does it mean for me? Yeah. Right? That's where this guide will tell you what it means for you. Because again, we've explained the energy of the planet. We've explained the vibe of the sign, but the house, and I'll tell you what that means right now. What the house is, your actions and behaviors, those things that you want to do. And I gave you that higher expression. If you're, Saturn's going to make you work. I'm sorry. He just is. So if you're working towards that larger kind of like stepping into yourself more, or if you're not, it's a choice. You don't have to, it's fine. But then it's going to tell you what's going to be happening for you if not. So I'm going to show me just for a minute, like 2 seconds, and then I'm going to go into Michelle H. I'm going to go into Tammy. I'm going to go into you, Mariah, and then I'm going to go into Michelle P. Okay. And those are people that had like just, they're in the Star Pass and like, hey, can you hook us up? I'm like, Yeah, I can. Right. And when we do Pluto, we do a bunch of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So you say you got your chart again, you figured it out, and you're gonna get a circle. You're gonna get a circle and has all these numbers around like this. See the inside right here? And then it has this colorful bezel. And you're gonna look for the green H on the outside. And then you're gonna go down and say, what house am I in? Okay. So mine happens to be right here at the top of the chart. That's the 10th house. So anybody who has the 10th house for Saturn, it is, how are you showing up as a leader? And with Pisces, is it a creative leader, an artistic leader, a musical leader, an intuitive leader, like a psychological leader, like uncovering, they uncover secrets, even like hypnotherapy, like those vibes. Saturn is about leadership. How are you achieving success? And if you happen to have it in Pisces, right? Like, and your natal Saturn is there, it's even more. So that means your Saturn returns. So this is why I'm getting like quadrupled whammied right now, right? Now with the star peak, I do more than just Saturn. So I look, so I said that Saturn to me is a big deal. Any Capricorn, Saturn is a really big deal. This is why you want to pay attention, no matter what house your Capricorn is in, right? The other thing is, for me in particular, it's hitting me in how I'm showing up in my life every day. It's hitting me at midnight, and it's hitting me from a soulmate perspective. I am getting quadruple shazamo whammo boom sauce whammy. You guys on the team know that. Here we go. Okay. All good. I'm going to take a sip of water for that. So just
I love it.
Let's look at Michelle H. Okay. Michelle H happens to have her Saturn, that H happens to be in her 6th house. So any of you that find your H right there, the green one on the outside, not the black one that may be on the inside. I don't know where hers is. Not the black one that's on the inside, but the green one that's on the outside. 6. This is all about work. No matter, she just found us. It's no joke. She literally just found us, a month or 2 ago. This is what happens. What happened when you found me, Mariah?
Oh my God, my work exploded in like a really beautiful way. Like, don't get me wrong, but Saturn made me choose. What do you want in your life? I mean, I sold my house, I quit my job, I got a new job, I went back to school, all the things.
Yeah, 100%, right? 100%. And then we came together, and it was a total different, like
smooths the path, and like you can see the path, and you're like, oh my God, that's not easy, but I can walk that path. Like I can do that. Do you know what I mean? It takes all the obstacles out of, doesn't take them out of the way, but it makes them less scary. It makes them like this big
instead of this big, right? So that's what we say. We create certainty for clarity of purpose. So you do the right people, you do the right things, right? So for Michelle H, this is Michelle H, because we have 2 Michelles today that reached out to us, and I was like,
I love the synchronicities.
Me too. So for Michelle, so here's the deal. So for you, your Saturn has already been in your 6th house. So you have been getting pushed for work. What do your daily routines look like? What is tenable? What is untenable? Because Saturn's asking you to choose for yourself. Saturn's not asking you to choose the popular thing. Saturn doesn't care about popularity contests. Saturn doesn't care about being liked. Saturn wants to be respected. Mm-hmm. Big difference. And Saturn isn't Saturn in Aquarius, though, is original. Go your own way, forge your own path, right? So he's been asking everybody of that for the last, 3 years. However, he has been asking people that have Saturn in the 6th house, what does it look for you like on a daily basis? This is about work, not necessarily about vocation. 10th house is vocation, calling, purpose, higher purpose. 6th house is about like, well, damn, woman, how are you making your money? Are you a slave to it? Like, are you in servitude to it? Does it make you feel less than? Does it give you freedom? That's what the last 3 years have been. In Pisces, he's now switching those signs, and he's saying, do you have ease? Have you done those hard choices that Aquarius was asking you to then have you created ease? If not, now's the time. And I also say for Michelle H, it's also hitting her because she's got a stellium here in that 1st house. And so from an angle perspective, it's hitting her Uranus, which is freedom. So she is going to want to create a rhythm, a routine, a daily life that she feels like she can breathe. If she feels like she's getting free, like, oh my God, I'm free. I am free to be who I'm meant to be. I'm free to make the choices that are meaningful to me. Saturn's always about meaningfulness. And Saturn is also the traffic cop who is not going to let you go forward until you start making the right choices. Yeah. That feels kind of douchey sometimes, right? Like it feels kind of, okay. We're going to out Miss Tammy. I'm going to start crossing off last names here because I should have done that before. Okay, so for Miss Tammy, so Tammy and anybody else who has Saturn in the first house. So again, we're looking for that green H on the outside. She has in the first house. She's been here for a little tiny bit, but now she's switching signs, right? BFD, because the first house is everything in your life. Like you're like, oh my God. But here's what we have to remember. We chose this. Our soul says, you know what would be a really good idea? It would be a really good idea because Tam also has, and this is the bigger thing for Tam. I've already told Tam this, that Pluto, where my Pluto is on her moon. This is the really big deal. But Saturn has been paving the way, right? Like you already hit that in 2020, my friend. So you already went through that. So yeah. So what does that mean? So Saturn in the first house, let's just clarify that for people. If you could have been there for a little bit in Aquarius, freedom of choice, like you want to get a flexible schedule. You want to have originality in your life. You want to be known. Maybe you're even, this is about style and flair and image. So you could be wearing different clothing, having a different hairstyle. Look at Tim. Yes and yes and yes, right? Yes.
All the things. I love that.
Beautiful. She feels like, okay, she's coming into it. She's making those choices, right? So now in Pisces, what does that mean? Well, she's in our container, so we can say it is about spirituality and about intuition. For others, it might be about creativity. It might be about relationship and being more compassionate. And really, this is about you, because the first house is about you. So the first house is like in service to you. So you're almost going to be like everybody else. You're going to be like, oh, baby cakes. Am I getting the compassionate relationship that I want? Do I feel that tender romance? Do I feel like in the rhythm of how I like to listen to music? What shows do I want to watch? And if you do want to then get into that creative mode, if you have that bent in media, in art, in music, in like I said, intuition, in psychology, in healing, then you're going to be like, I've made those choices with Saturn in Aquarius to break free. So now I'm going to step in. Mm-hmm. If you haven't, now's the opportunity to step in. Okay.
So good.
What about you, Miss Mariah?
What about me?
Okay, here we go. Okay.
So let's lay it on me.
Yeah. So for you, this is why for you, it's just a shift of the dial, which you said before, is because you've already gone through, like your Saturn is down here. So the H, see how the H is outside and it goes into the 12th house. So I'm going to talk about the 12th house, but you've already been through your soul destiny. Saturn already smacked you on that. You've already been, Pluto right here is shifting, but Pluto already smacked you upside the head with all of this, and you just exited, just a handful of years ago, your Saturn return. So you got bitch slapped over the last handful of years, which is why you're like, it's a turning of the dial. Mm-hmm. Right? Okay. Yeah. So 12th house. So you're about 12th house. So Pisces' natural like affinity for behavior is the 12th house. So this is what you're coming into, that spiritual healing, magical realm. What have we been saying about, like you and I have been talking about PFM, pure fucking magic. We've been talking about that for a few weeks. This is why.
Yeah. Now I have my ascendant in Pisces, right? So will that affect me even more? Yeah, so your ascendant is how you show up, right? So this is where you have about a year-ish to really like be luscious in like how you want to be, and like you discover your hidden treasure, because that's what the 12th house is about. Like any secrets you want to reveal to yourself, like anything you want to open up to, right? Like how do I want to discover me? And that can be behind closed doors, if you will. That can be separate from the public eye. But when Saturn goes into the first house for you, which is going to be about a year from now,
That's where you're like, now I'm ready to come out.
Okay,
Doesn't
cool.
that feel yummy? Doesn't that feel, this is why you're a little bit like, what's the big deal? You know what I mean? Like, I'm making a big deal about this, and you're like, yeah, but what's the big deal? But this is why you and I perfect. And we didn't even plan this. I am going through like the hells of Saturn right now. And you're like, yeah, baby, I got it. On either end of the spectrum, right? So good. Okay. So for Michelle P. Okay. So Michelle P, her H is like right here. So it's almost on the cusp of going into the 7th house. And it's so close that I'm going to read 7th house for Michelle P.
Cool.
Okay. Because it's only like, it's literally like a few weeks away. And it's going to be there for 3 years. So that's really, and she's hitting her soul destiny in probably a few months from now. So, I mean, I didn't get exact dates on that. The other thing that Michelle has, because again, Pisces is that watery sign. It's very healing. And these signs and these houses, they mean so much. This is why with the star peaks mean so, I can focus them on exactly what it means to you and which part of it. So if for people, it sounds like, yeah, but you said Pisces over here, and now you're saying Pisces is this, it's because it matters for the person. Yeah. So that's why people go crazy for the star peaks. So with Michelle P, what I want to do is I want to look at 2 other things right now. What is the date? I think it's like in 3 or 4. It's in the next week. Sorry. I just wrote March and I can't remember the dates. She's got this beautiful healing element in her 8th house. And Pisces is a water sign. This is a water house. So I'm going to read the healing element for her, intimacy. And she also has Uranus really close to her natal Saturn. So for Michelle P, I want to wrap those 3 things together. I want to talk about Pisces in the 7th house and Saturn entering there. This is going to be about your long-term relationships, your committed relationships, business partners, soulmate friends, those people that you're like, I just adore you. I love you. I want to wear you for the rest of my life. Romantic partnership, like those committed relationships. How do you want to be with them? This is adding an element of softness, of tenderness, of kindness, of compassion. There's ease here. There's communion in a way that you may not have seen for a while, which that feels luscious.
Oh, good.
Doesn't that feel so good? And Saturn's asking you to take it seriously. That's what Saturn's asking you. Take these things seriously. Now think about it. If for Michelle P, it's going to be beautiful because she's in a committed relationship, and you know what I mean? For other people who may be not in committed relationship, then it's going to be like, how can you commit to a relationship like that? Right. And if you have healing to do around intimacy, then that's where that 8th house comes in. And that's why I'm reading for Michelle, that she has a beautiful ability. There's Jupiter there, there's Venus there, there's Chiron there, a gorgeous ability to be like, how do I want to dive into intimacy bravely? Because it's in Aries, like that maybe I haven't yet. And how do I want to spend the next few months just basking and bathing and really indulging in gorgeous, intimate, beautiful healing? Doesn't that feel yummy?
I love that. And like, we get to choose how luscious that these are. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can choose to see like these opportunities of healing as like, exactly. I wonder what is it going to look like on the other side if I choose this, if I choose me, right? Like, how amazing is life going to be? And like, Saturn isn't hitting me hard right now because he hit me really hard a couple years ago, right? And I think about like, if I didn't choose me back then, like, oh my gosh, like my life is amazing. Like, I cannot imagine being stuck like in a classroom like I was, you know what I mean? Like, I just can't imagine. So when there's this opportunity to choose yourself, it may seem hard, but like, it's so worth it.
It's so worth it. Think about the relationship you have with the girls and your husband, the relationship you have with clients now, and the magic that's opening up for you, right? So for you, all your stuff was about work because it was like all 10th house. Then it was like how you're showing up in the world. And then now it's like this magical odyssey, right? So for Michelle and people like that, it's about relationship. but it's the same type of thing.
Yeah.
For Tammy, it's for herself. It's in that first quadrant, it's herself. And then it's going to be about her worth. And then it's going to be about finances and resources. And it's going to be about her voice. Like, it's like there's a story that's told as Saturn goes around your chart, right? So the story that Michelle P happens to be in is about this beautiful, deep bonding. This,
so good.
Right? Like cherished and beloved. And she also does have how she's showing up in the world, because Uranus happens to be hitting her natal Saturn. So she's going to want to be creating lasting change, which we know all the work that she's done in the last few years, right? Like, she's perfectly primed for this lasting change, to having that ease and comfort out in her work too. Amazing. Choosing her own path. This is where that specificity of the originality of her own path was really, really important. And her uniqueness is really, really important. Again, that's her natal Saturn. It just so happens that Uranus happens to be there. So these star peaks are more than just what's in the guide for you, but what's in the guide for you is also really informative, right?
So informative.
Yeah. So just again, to just give a little peek of this, that there's a table here, and I go through the 6th house, higher expression, low expression. This is if you're choosing, this is if you decide not to, right? And you can decide, you can be like, you know what? In my life right now, I don't have the capacity to deal with Saturn right now. He's going to deal with you, but that's okay. And if you read and you go, that's not such a big deal, you can choose that. You can be like, that's not such a big deal.
Yeah.
Right. So this is why I like to give the choice here for you. I'm a Capricorn. I'm always going to choose to do the hard thing, right? I'm always going to choose it. And something for us, I'm just going to over reveal a little bit. I've been pressed for the last year and a half. Make it easy, make it simple, make it super straightforward. And how I've been striving to do that, right? I've been striving to be like, that 3 seconds, let's go. And yet, you know what? Saturn's like, no, guess what? It is complicated. There are layers to it. There is so much involved with this. This is why it took you 5,000 hours, 5 years, 50 million charts. Like, it's a thing. Own your expertise and make it as straightforward as you possibly can. Make it as clear as you possibly can. Make it as certain as you possibly can. Mm-hmm. Right? And we're just going through that shift and saying, yes, let's go back to who I really am and back to who we really are, because, it's not a 1, 2, 3 thing. Even this, we've looked through one element of Saturn in Pisces. And yet we've brought in 20 other things because they're too important not to. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I know. But you know what? I got to see Scott Kelly last night live. There were only about 500 people in the auditorium. It was a very intimate setting. And he's an astronaut, and he's a twin. And he is probably about my age, and he went up to the International Space Station for a year. So they could study, so NASA could study his DNA and what happens in space versus his identical brother's DNA on Earth. So cool. His identical brother, Mark Kelly, also an astronaut. He's now the senator of Arizona. Like, no joke, right? So here's Scott is like, just speaking, and I'm with Greg, my husband, and he's like Mr. Space Planet, like anything air, anything that flies, he's adoring of, right? And it was funny because there was a stumper, because my husband has traveled around the world 57 times, like the equivalency, because that's how much he's traveled. So he kind of, walks the walk, right? Oh no, oh my God, the stats that Scott Kelly used were hilarious. And I looked at him like, boom sauce, gotcha. Because he's been around the world maybe 100 million times, right? Oh my God. But he was talking last night, and he was saying that you know what? Sometimes things are hard. Mm-hmm. Sometimes things are complicated. And you know what? So what? Like, they're just hard and they're just complicated. It doesn't mean, he's like, it's beyond the sky is the limit. He's like, when you are, and they would get a sunrise every 45 minutes.
Oh my God.
Whip around the earth so fast. They go what was it, 17,500 miles an hour? Like, he's just zzz. Can you imagine the distance?
No, I literally can't. Like, I'm like leaving my body thinking about it. I'm like ready to hyperventilate over here.
Go breathe. We're gonna breathe, right?
That's crazy.
So he's going through, and he's like every 45 minutes, crazy, right? And so he was just saying, but you get that perspective, and he's like, and you see the earth, and we are all in this story together. We are in the earth story together. There's Pisces. We're all in the earth story together. Saturn is, yeah, and it may be hard to see that, and it may be hard to get there, and it may be complicated, but it's worth it. That's what Saturn is. It's worth it. You are worth it. You are worth all those choices. You are worth all those things you have to do. Look at Mariah moving energy. You are worth everything. And he got to meet, he's talked to President Zelensky of the Ukraine. They met. Yeah. And so, the president asked Scott Kelly to do fundraising and do things. So he decided to provide ambulances for Ukraine. Like, oh my God, like amazing. That's Saturn, like doing the right thing, doing things to help people. It's Saturn and Pisces, doing things to help people, doing things in service, doing things compassionately. And this is for you, and it's for your world. Now, whether that's your family, whether that's your community, whether it's the world, but it's all beautiful. It's all absolutely beautiful.
I love that. And there'll be people at each stage. So you don't need to worry about, well, if I don't take care of, you know what I mean? Like there'll be people taking care of the world and the smaller community, and people taking care of their family, so that everyone is taken care of.
Absolutely. 100%. And for us, what we've decided to do, we have our beautiful, luscious one-on-one clients. We have our high-end program, of course. But we also, again, are doing the Star Pass. And why are we doing this? We are doing this because we can. We're doing this because I adore the stars, and I want to help people, use them strategically. And our mission is to create a worldwide movement to weave that feminine intuitive wisdom with that core masculine logical strength. This is our jam. If we can do it in a very simple, not simple, easy to say yes way. Let me say it that way. We want to make it easy to say yes. Just because it's complicated doesn't mean it can't be easy to say yes. So join the Star Pass. Literally, we meet every other month. We've kind of cycled it up a little bit right now for every month, just because there's so much star activity. We're giving bonuses. We're going to be doing Pluto in Aquarius, which is, you think this is a big deal? Like, that's a bigger deal. We're going to be doing that same guide. We'll be doing tons of star peaks. Come on in.
It's so much fun. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
So make the big things like a bite size. You just tackle it. You got all the information, you have all the tools, and you're just like, yeah, let's do this. Like, it turns it into like an adventure.
I love that. An adventure. And on that, we're going to end. We're going to